Hello everyone, and welcome to TowerGate, day 34. It is April the 6th, 2017. Well, obviously in the past 24 hours there have been absolutely incredible, in a bad way, game-changing events that have taken place regarding TowerGate and so many other things within the Trump administration. I'll be doing 2 or 3 different videos today to cover all these things because they're all kind of connected. But I'm going to keep this video pretty short just to the TowerGate. There are a couple things happening. And I'll give you my prognosis of where we're going to go from here because I can see it. So it's a new game now. I guess most of you have already heard that Devin Nunes, the pressure has finally gotten to him and he has been purged. So now he'll occupy a spot on the committee, but he'll have no say-so in the leadership of where it goes. It looks like it'll fall to the next ranking Republican. So it looks like the deep state has been successful. Really, they were very successful in the last 24 hours. They've taken out the #1 man who was probably the only person who was really on board with Donald Trump's agenda. There was really 2 people in his administration that actually made it to the first day of his becoming president, and that was well, didn't even make it that far actually. General Flynn, and they purged him. Steve Bannon was the last man standing, and as of yesterday they purged him. So now Donald Trump is surrounded completely by nothing but neocons, deep staters, and people who want to see him fail. People who never supported him, like Nikki Haley. People who are opposed to his trade, like Mr. Cohn, who's now the person who he's got working on the trade deals. There's a lot of problems with what's happened in the last 24 hours, and I'll be covering that in a couple of videos, but let's just stay on this TowerGate. So Devin Nunes has been purged. He has succumbed to the pressure. He's stepped aside. And that not only sends a message to him, but to the other Republican members on the committee. The deep state does not want their agents, meaning Susan Rice, Obama, or anyone else who may have been involved, Comey, Brennan, Lynch. These are all people who are servants of the deep state. They will get protection. This is why these people are never held accountable, whether it's Benghazi, running guns. It doesn't really matter. This is why every time we see these investigations, no one ever is held accountable. And I can certainly tell you today, based on what I'm seeing, that the cover-up now will begin. No one will be held accountable. There will be no charges against Rice. There will be nothing like that of the sort. The cover-up will begin. They'll put this thing to bed. It'll slip away onto the back pages. Other things will take its place. In a couple of weeks from now, it'll be prologue. It also appears that in addition to stepping down, just to make an example of Nunes and to show people what happens when you try to go after the minions of the deep state, he is now going to be the target of an investigation for mishandling classified information. Nunes is going to be investigated by his own committee for mishandling classified information, as well as by the Senate. It's very likely that he will lose his seat because they will go to work on him, and they will make sure that a valuable lesson is learned by anyone else who might attempt to take down servants of the deep state. There will be no charges brought forward against anyone for any of the criminal activities of spying on Trump and his team. And I will continue to do a daily TowerGate video, but I can tell you that beginning today, the big cover-up will begin to put this thing to bed, to quiet it down, to make it go away. And so nothing is actually going to come out of these hearings regarding whether or not Trump was actually spied on or not. Anyone who does attempt to move that ball down the field will be Devin Nunes. And they all understand that. Do you think Trey Gowdy wants to lose his position? Do you think he's going to go after anybody or any of the other Republicans on that committee? No. They're watching exactly what just happened to Nunes, and they're going to make sure that does not happen to them. So, on the other issue, because remember, there's three issues being dealt with. Number one, there is the investigation of whether or not Russia hacked the election. The word is that the House Intelligence Committee did ask the two heads of CrowdStrike to come and appear before Congress, but they're stating that they're the people who speak for them, their spokesmen, are saying, nah, they're not going to come and talk to the Congress. You can go ahead and subpoena them, but they don't have to answer to that subpoena. So the two guys from CrowdStrike cannot go appear before the Congress because they know that there are many, many quotes from them over the past few weeks where they are now backing away from their claims that Russia was behind the hacking. So they would really be the two guys that could break that wide open. So it is coming out now that apparently Nunes did request that they come and testify. They are not going to come and testify. They're going to say nothing. They're not going to show up, even if they're subpoenaed. It's not going to happen. So you can see exactly where this thing is going. The whole thing's turned 180 degrees in 24 hours. And that's why I say there will be no more of a real investigation. The cover-up will begin. The effort to put this thing to bed and let it slip away onto the back pages by simply not having much activity going on around it. Other things will take its place. Some of those things will be Syria. Some of those things will be other things. And I'll cover them as well. So that's where we are today, April 6, 2017, day 34, pretty much the end of the TowerGate investigation. And now it will begin, of course, the beginning of the cover-up, so that the minions that serve the deep state, Rice and Obama and Ben Rhodes and Comey and Brennan and all the rest, including the Clintons, who are probably involved in this as well, they are going to walk away scot-free, and they'll have a good laugh at all of us for even believing or even thinking that there might be some justice brought forward to the people who are involved in this type of stuff. The deep state will have learned once again that it has complete power to do whatever it wants, to spy on anyone it wants, to use the power of the deep state to destroy anyone who might try to come along and call them out for their criminal activity. They are also smiling very hard, proving that the deep state is all-powerful, controls everything and everyone in Washington, and anyone who attempts to challenge them is going to end up like Mr. Nunes, who's been demoted and who is now going to be facing his own criminal investigation. And then, of course, when he comes up for re-election, he will be defeated. So there we go. Now on the investigation into Russia, that was taken care of as well. You got to hand it to the deep state, man. They hit a home run yesterday. In the last 24 hours, they've been able to put all this stuff away. Because now that they've carried out this little exercise in Syria, the sarin gas attack, which unfortunately Trump bought into hook, line, and sinker, unfortunately, and without Steve Bannon by his side to advise him as to what exactly was going on, with nothing but neocons around him, Priebus and McMasters and his son-in-law, who's obviously not on his side. He is, of course, a lifelong liberal Democrat, by the way, and his loyalties are to another country, not to the United States. And he represents another country, not the United States. And that other country that he represents wants regime change in Syria and Iran. And so, because the entire narrative that the deep state has been using is that to weaken Donald Trump and to take down those around him and to destroy him, which they are going to do, by the way, the entire Russian narrative was to handcuff Donald Trump so that he could not proceed with the policies that he campaigned on, which was not to have a regime change in Syria, but rather to allow Bashar al-Assad to stay in power, to work with the Russians to get the terrorists out, and then to try to have better relations with Russia. All this was done to keep Trump from being able to do that. He's not even been able to have a meeting with Putin because of the political firestorm that might happen if he did. So the deep state had to act quickly. They had to get Bannon out of there. In less than 12 hours after they got Bannon out, they pulled off the operation. Trump bought into it hook, line, and sinker. And so now there will be no more need to investigate whether or not there was a collusion between Russia and Putin, between Trump and Putin and Russia, because now that Trump has bought in hook, line, and sinker, and he's decided to flip his position on regime change in Syria, or a no-fly zone, or any of that other type of stuff, which is going against the interest of Russia, it will now be okay for him, because now you can certainly say, well, obviously he did not have any collusion with Russia because he's willing to act against Russia's interest. Their primary concern right now being the issue in Syria. So now that Donald Trump is going to flip his position, it appears, on Syria and regime change against the interest of Russia, that narrative of him colluding with Russia no longer holds any water. But now that that narrative is going away, that should remove the reason and the excuse that Democrats or Susan Rice or the Obama administration had for surveilling Trump. But see, they don't have to worry about that anymore, because that's all been taken care of as well. With one fell swoop, you see the deep state hit a home run. Not only did they succeed in getting Trump to flip his position on Syria and Russia, they also were able to take out Nunes in that same stroke, save their minions from any scrutiny or prosecution or being held accountable for the crimes. But they also did something else very successfully. They have set the stage for the final and the last player in this group of people to be purged. And that person would be the last man standing, which is Donald Trump. Because they understand that the actions in Syria are going to be a disaster. And they're not going to be viewed very favorably by anybody, as we know from the previous history of 2013. So now they're going to lead Donald Trump down a path in a foreign policy quagmire in Syria, which may bring us into a head-to-head nuclear confrontation with the Russians, or at least ways a Mexican standoff, a disastrous, costly, trillion-dollar war in Syria which will fail. It will be a quagmire. This will drop President Trump's approval ratings probably down into the 20s, and it's just a matter of time before he is purged. So, that's where we stand today. I will be back tomorrow with another follow-up, but I can tell you as of today that there will be no consequences for those who participated in the illegal surveillance of Trump and his team. And at this point, it's just going to be a cover-up. They're just going to put it away, put it to bed, and they will have succeeded greatly. And don't know if any of you saw John McCain yesterday on Fox, but he was beaming, absolutely smiling ear to ear. No doubt he was a part of the operation, the sarin gas operation. No doubt he understands what a big win they just had, and what a big loss for all of us who got behind Trump and supported Trump and believed that we actually might be able to restore the Constitution. It looks now that that may not be possible without a full-scale, large action by the people themselves. So that's what we have today. I'll be looking forward to talking to you a little bit later on a more serious issue regarding what happened in Syria and how this all went down and where we can expect this to go. So thank you for tuning in. I appreciate all my subscribers, and appreciate the thumbs up and sharing my videos. Again, I'll continue to do a TowerGate update every day, but I can tell you where it's going from here, and that is nowhere. Y'all have a good day. See ya.